Thank you very much indeed, Francis and Brian. A bit worried, Francis, that sounded a bit like an obituary to me. I hope it doesn't turn out that way. I'm grateful for the invitation to be here today, and I'm particularly delighted to be back at Citi. This company represents the new Northern Ireland and the potential that we have to develop and prosper in the world economy. Its presence is a sign of things to come. It's a demonstration of how the executive can support business and attract high-value jobs into Northern Ireland. And it's an example of a company that has come to Northern Ireland to invest, and because of the experience that they have had here in Northern Ireland, have decided to reinvest. Today, I want to talk about the economy and my vision for the future, but I think it's fitting if I preface my remarks with a few comments about the events of the past weekend. Last Saturday's brutal murder of a young police officer in Omagh and its aftermath was both a reminder of the past and I think a sign of just how far we have come as a community. Ronan Kerr was a powerful symbol of the new Northern Ireland that we are building. The Chief Constable, Matt Baggett, said he was a modern-day hero. He's right. And so too are the police officers who go out to serve this community today, tomorrow, but also those who have served in the past. Events such as this cause us to pause and remember the debt of gratitude that we owe them all. And that debt can be repaid by the community by playing its part in helping to track down those who were responsible for perpetrating this act. It's trite to say that the terrorists will not win. The truth is, they cannot win. If I'm sure of one thing, it's that the overwhelming majority of people in Northern Ireland utterly condemn the murder of Ronan Kerr. Terrorists may be able to destroy a life, but they cannot destroy the political process that we have embarked upon, and they cannot destroy the resolve of the people of Northern Ireland to move forward. This was an utterly futile act, designed to divide and designed to destroy. The killers have succeeded in taking the life of a brave police officer, but in doing so, they have strengthened the resolve of the rest of our society in our commitment never to go back to the division and conflict of the last generation. Ronan's murder is a huge tragedy, but far from it being a threat to the new era, it indicates and vindicates our decision to travel this road, and its horror is a sharp reminder that all of us, in our own ways, must maintain our commitment and devote our energy to building the new Northern Ireland that Ronan sought and served. There was a time when acts of violence and terror would have divided political opinion in Northern Ireland. Today, it unites it. All of you will know what an enormous step forward this is from the experiences of the past. Yesterday, the Chief Constable, the Justice Minister, the Deputy First Minister, and myself stood side by side, united in support of the police and united in opposition to those who would seek to drag us back. Given the history of the last 40 years, that's a remarkable demonstration of unity. This isn't a time to score political points about the past, but rather to recognize a shared aspiration for a better future. There are some who have criticized the Assembly and criticised the Executive over the last 4 years, and not always without cause. But I often find that those who criticise us most are those who have no alternative and who have contributed least. For all of the shortcomings of the Assembly, it immeasurably strengthens our capacity to deal with incidents such as this. It is the anchor which cements the progress that has been made. It's a sign of how far we have come that completing the first full 4-year term of an Assembly in 40 years is now effectively taken for granted. 4 years ago, few people believed that the Assembly would last for 4 months, but today there are very few who would believe that the Assembly will not still be there in another 4 years' time. Building peace and stability isn't a single day's work, but it is that work that is the most significant contribution to building a successful economy. And I want to speak about the last 4 years, the next 4 years, and the choice that people of Northern Ireland will have come polling day. Growing the economy was the overarching priority of the last programme for government. In the face of so many competing aspirations, that in itself was a considerable step forward. While we couldn't have predicted the unprecedented financial turbulence that we have been faced with over the last few years, I have no doubt that we were right to make the economy the main priority for the last Assembly. No one knows better than me that there have been ups and downs along the way, but despite all the problems, real progress has been made. It has taken the Assembly and Executive a while to bed in, and for all of us to come to terms with how the new political arrangements operate. In my view, there's still too much political point scoring and too much petty bickering. And those who have the honour to serve the community in ministerial office need to be more loyal to the executive of which they are a part and be team players rather than to see themselves as opposition. Yet even with this handicap, in the last 12 months the executive has shouldered its responsibilities, and in spite of being faced with £4 billion of cuts, it has functioned better than at any point in the past. In the last 12 months, with the most difficult fiscal environment for a generation, and in the face of an upcoming Assembly election, the Executive was able to agree a 4-year budget. It wasn't perfect. There is no perfect way to reduce spending on the scale forced upon us, and it was probably not what any single party would have produced given a free hand. But given the need to reach cross-party agreement, I believe Sammy Wilson reached a fair compromise. I hope lessons have been learned over the last 4 years that will make the next Assembly and Executive more effective than the last one. However, while recognising these shortcomings, it would be entirely wrong for anyone to go away with the impression that the last Executive didn't have very considerable success in many areas. You won't have heard it on the Nolan Show, but the fundamental building blocks for prosperity are peace and stability, and despite the setback of recent days, Northern Ireland remains a society transformed. We saw the blight on investment and employment for the decades of the Troubles, and now we are seeing the real potential of Northern Ireland being unleashed. I believe that settled and stable political institutions are a key ingredient of that process. In this last 4 years, we have also invested more than ever before in Northern Ireland's history in crucial infrastructure for the long-term growth of the economy. Our capital spending last year was still around £1.5 billion, compared to less than half of that just a few years ago. This means a greater than ever investment in our schools, roads, hospital, housing. I also want to recognise the important role that Invest Northern Ireland have played in helping to attract new business. It was very clear from the US Northern Ireland Investment Conference last October in Washington that the quality of customer service made Northern Ireland a much easier and attractive place in which to invest. In the departments for which my party have been responsible over the last Assembly term, I also believe that we have made a positive difference. For the last 4 years, we have had responsibility for some of the key economic departments, and I believe that our stewardship of these departments has been positive. The budget that I announced as Finance Minister back in 2007 set the direction of the Executive for the Assembly term and set out our position in relation to the taxes over which we have responsibility. While the Northern Ireland Executive has relatively limited revenue-raising powers, we have sought to use these powers to help grow the economy. We froze business rates in real terms for the last 3 years. We capped manufacturing rates at 30%.